Hey, folks. Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. I'd like you to wrap your head around this. The Jewish people make up 0.2% of the world's total population. To put it in perspective, out of 8 billion people worldwide, there are less than 16 million Jews. Now, most of the world's Jews live in America or the nation of Israel, which, helpful reminder, is roughly the size of the state of New Jersey. So we have a people that is less than 1% of the world's entire population and whose tiny homeland is surrounded by enemies. And yet, the Jews have been blamed for everything from supposedly undermining ancient empires to causing the Black Death in the Middle Ages to orchestrating 9/11 and now arranging the murder of Charlie Kirk. Folks, I'm not joking. I wish I was. But there are a growing number of online conspiracies suggesting that Israel was behind Charlie's assassination, even though Charlie was one of Israel's greatest defenders in the public arena. It's gotten so insane that Charlie's pastor felt compelled to respond. Take a look.
You know, there's discussion about his views on Israel. What I can tell you is that Charlie believed, and I was with him in Korea that was the last trip we took. It was last week. And he was wanting me to go to Israel to start a work there. That was his request of me. And I know that he believed the Jews had an ancestral right to the land. He believed that Jews are God's chosen people. He believed in the sovereignty of Israel.
Amen. And folks, again, that's Charlie Kirk's pastor who talked with him frequently about Israel. Seems pretty clear where Charlie stood. But the anti-Semitic chatter is getting so bad that even Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has weighed in, calling the conspiracies insane. But it's even deeper than that. This obsession with the Jews is demonic and a sign of the prophetic times that we're living in. I spoke about all that and more with a good friend of Charlie Kirk, an Israeli rabbi who spoke to Charlie the night before he was killed. That's coming up in a minute. But up first, quick reminder, if you like what you're hearing here, current events, breaking news, mainly from Israel and the Middle East, but we go all around the world and all from an unapologetically biblical perspective, then be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. We are fast approaching 1.1 million subscribers for such a time as this, only God, and we'd love for you to be here with us every day, shoulder to shoulder, as watchmen and women on the wall. Speaking of watchmen, my good friend, Rabbi Pesach Walicki, he's executive director of the Israel 365 Action Fund. He joined me to break down his conversation with Charlie Kirk the night before Charlie's assassination, how Charlie really felt about Israel, and how we need to band together, Christians, Jews alike, to defend and save Judeo-Christian Western civilization. Take a look. Rabbi Pesach Walicki, Executive Director of Israel 365 Action. Pesach, always great to see you, my friend. And I wanted to ask you about Charlie first. We've got a lot to unpack and discuss, but you and Charlie were in regular communication, including shortly before he was assassinated. What are your personal thoughts on him and his legacy?
Well, first of all, Charlie was a man of faith, and that informed everything that he did, everything that he did, even when he rubbed people to the right of him or the left of him or whatever sides you want to call it the wrong way. Charlie was always seeking truth. Yeah. And that's really where my relationship with him came to be. I wasn't a close friend of his in the sense that I knew his wife and kids or anything like that. It was very much a relationship about the fact that he wanted reliable information from Israel, from someone in Israel, someone who understood the America First movement, the MAGA movement that he's from. And his people got in touch with me about 6-7 months ago. We had already met previously, and we knew who each other were. I mean, obviously, I knew who he was. He knew who I was, and I was friends with a lot of people around him, and that's why he was comfortable. And he reached out to me. One day, I get a text message that Charlie's added me to his WhatsApp, and we started chatting, and we would talk about Israel issues. And if he had questions, and he had criticisms for Israel, he wanted someone that confidentially he could talk to about these things and seek information. Of course, he was certainly having conversations with people who were on the other side of these things, and far be it for me to tell Charlie what to think, but I was in regular, basically daily communication with him about this. And then you mentioned the meeting that we had right before his passing, and this was very jarring in retrospect. So Charlie, when he would go out to these campus tours, we've all seen the clips, the viral clips of him debating students, and that's what people know. But unless you've been to the full events or multiple full events, most people don't realize that a large percentage of the questions that Charlie would get on campuses were about Israel.
Wow.
And they were about Israel because our campuses have become hotbeds of anti-Israel hostility. And Charlie was known as someone who defended Israel, who was supportive of Israel, although, again, with his criticisms. And Charlie wanted to speak with me. And Josh Hammer was also on the call. There were other people. You know Josh.
Yeah.
There were a couple of us. It was a small meeting. And Charlie wanted to meet with us to go over the issues that he anticipated he would be asked about Israel and hear what our thoughts were. Again, we weren't telling him what to say, and he wasn't necessarily accepting every argument we made. That's fine.
You're just giving wise counsel.
Charlie wanted to talk to people who are in the know, who understand the issues, and I'm based in Israel, so he knew that, and we knew each other. So that was what the conversation was about. We talked about issues that he might be faced with relating to Israel. It was a very lively conversation, and we ended the conversation by simply saying, like, of course we didn't know it was the end. It was more just like, hey, let's continue communicating on WhatsApp. If questions come up that we didn't anticipate, we'll talk about them. That was the call, and that was Tuesday evening. And I'm told that it was actually his last work meeting before he went out he went to Utah, which was the first stop on his new trip.
What do you make of these? Now some are saying, well, he was in the process of turning against Israel. Was that your take in your interactions with him?
Look, he had his criticisms for Israel, and there were things that made him uncomfortable. And some of those, from my perspective, as a defender of Israel, as an Israeli, some of his criticisms were more founded than others. We didn't necessarily see eye to eye in everything. That was all part of our conversations. Look, Charlie is America first, and Charlie is an honest person and a good Christian, and he listened to a lot of different voices. And in the end of the day, I think the fact that we had our relationship that we had, the fact that Charlie called that meeting, and let's make it very clear, I don't have the ability to call a meeting with Charlie Kirk. Yeah. Charlie put this meeting on our schedule. It was weeks in advance. He knew that he was going out. Wednesday was the first day of his new tour. This was set for Tuesday evening. He wanted to have this meeting right before going out so that the information and the issues would be as current as possible. And the very fact that he called this meeting speaks to the fact that with all of his criticisms, Charlie remained pro-Israel. Because why on earth would he have a meeting with Pesach Walicki and Josh Hammer to talk through Israel issues if he had turned on Israel and abandoned Israel?
Yeah, and he recently called the anti-Israel bile we're seeing from some quarters of the right demonic. He actually used that word. Hey, we've only got about a minute left. Judea and Samaria, one contentious issue, of course, I'm sure Charlie asked you about. Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland of Israel. Israel possibly ready to apply sovereignty there. What's the latest there, and what are you hearing?
The latest there is that Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to be saying that it's not the right time and that he wants to delay a little bit. The consensus in Israel is overwhelmingly that we need to apply sovereignty. And it's not just about applying sovereignty because we want to take more possession of the land. More and more Israelis have realized that the only way to end this conflict once and for all is to end it. Yeah. And the only way to end it is if there's no more open issues. And the only way there's only two ways there's no more open issues. Either the Arab world completely destroys Israel and there's nothing left to negotiate, or Israel applies full sovereignty and turns to our enemies and says, look, it's over. We're not negotiating anymore. You might not like it, but this is the reality. Don't mess with us. I mean, that's where we are. Sovereignty, ironically, and that show of strength, we've learned this from the first Trump administration and from all the peace through strength policies that work, that the only real way to achieve peace in the Middle East is to be unequivocal and lay down the truth. So I hope that Israel applies sovereignty very soon. But the latest we're hearing is that there might be some delays.
Pesach, for people watching who may not know, they hear the terminology the West Bank used for that region of Israel. Can you talk a bit about how Judea and Samaria is crucial not only to Israel's history, but its present and its prophetic future?
Well, of course, the biblical heartland, as we call it, Judea and Samaria, is where some 70% or more of all of the stories in the Bible, in the Hebrew Scriptures, took place in what we call today Judea and Samaria. So this really is the land of the people of Israel. This is the land of Israel. But it's also strategically important from the high ground in Judea and Samaria. It's like the spine of the country. From either, you can stand atop those peaks in Samaria, and you can see all the way to the Mediterranean. You could look over Ben Gurion Airport. If you had an RPG on your shoulder, you can shoot at the airfield.
It's a mountainous region. And
in the other direction, you can see the border with Jordan. It's a very strategic area. Israel's a very small country. But more importantly, Eric, I think the most important aspect of the Judea-Samaria issue that people need to understand is that before 1967, between 1948, the founding of the State of Israel, and 1967, that area was under Jordanian control. Gaza was under Egyptian control. And nobody was calling for the Jordanians and Egyptians to create a Palestinian state. Why not? Why didn't they want a Palestinian state when it was under Arab control? And the answer is that it's never been about a Palestinian state. It's always been about the fact that the Muslim world believes that any area that was ever under Muslim control must be taken back under Muslim control. And therefore, they cannot have any Jewish sovereignty in the land. So Palestinian autonomy has always been viewed as a stepping stone to ultimately destroy the state of Israel. And that's why in the post-October 7th world, where Israelis have come to realize, we've all come to realize, that compromise with an ideology that wants to destroy you is not possible. The only real option for Israel is to apply full sovereignty, because the application of full sovereignty sends a message to the other side that we're done negotiating. So long as there's open issues, there's still some things that are undecided. We can still have the negotiating table, and there's still buttons to be pushed, and there's still concessions to be extracted. The only way to end it is to say we're done negotiating and apply full Israeli sovereignty. And let me add, we have to change the status quo on the Temple Mount. The status quo on the Temple Mount that does not allow Jews to pray freely and does not allow Christians to pray freely is a blight on Israel. It's a blight on our civilization. This is our Temple Mount, and we are allowing this Muslim control allows their narrative to also be primary, that it's a Muslim shrine rather than the site of King Solomon and the Second Temple, King Solomon's Temple and the Second Temple.
Solomon's Temple stood there 3,000 years ago, long before Islam was ever created. And Jesus taught in the Second Temple. So for Jews and Christians like Pesach, as you said, this is the place, the Temple Mount. Hey, speaking of the radical Islamic threat, we've got really, and you know this well, an unholy alliance, I'd say, forming. Radical Islam, the radical left, working together. Some may say, well, it's strange bedfellows, but they share a hatred for Judeo-Christian Western civilization. Talk more about that, how we see that developing right here in the West.
Well, right after October 7th, Eric, that November, at the Christmas tree lighting at Rockefeller Plaza, November 2023, there was a riot, a pro-Hamas, anti-Israel riot, and they were chanting, Christmas is canceled until Palestine is free. And it wasn't an isolated incident. At Piccadilly Circus and Camden Market in London, similar thing. Pro-Hamas, anti-Israel demonstrations during the Christmas shopping season with slogans saying Christmas is canceled. At the La Scala Opera in Rome, where they have a Christmas celebration, a Christmas performance every year, it was interrupted by anti-Israel, pro-Hamas demonstrators. And at St. Patrick's Cathedral, on Easter Sunday, the Easter Mass was interrupted by anti-Israel, pro-Hamas demonstrators. Now, let me state the obvious, Eric. Israel's a Jewish state. Jews don't celebrate Christmas and Easter. Why does it make sense to our enemies to attack Christmas and Easter in the name of their hatred of Israel? We have to listen to our enemies, and that's something that we don't do enough. They know what this war is about. Our enemies attack Christmas and Easter in the name of their hatred of Israel because it makes sense to them. To them, we're all the same. To them, Israel is either Israel's one of two things. It's either the long-awaited return of the Jewish people, the nation of Israel, from their 2,000-year exile, where we were scattered to the ends of the heavens, and as Deuteronomy 30 says, you will be gathered back to the land of your forefathers and take possession of it and become more numerous and more prosperous than your ancestors. That is an established fact. There are more Jews in Israel than ever before. We're more prosperous than ever before. We were scattered to the ends of the heavens. We've been gathered. We've taken possession. Every word of that prophecy that I just stated has come true. Either Israel is that, or Israel's illegitimate. And the Jewish people today have nothing to do with the Jews of the Bible, as some of our enemies are claiming. Those are the only two options. If you believe in the Bible, and you look at the state of Israel and you understand that it's the fulfillment of that, you have to stand against it if you want to. If you hate the Bible, if you hate Israel, you have to stand against the nation of Israel. Yeah. So what the two components of the left, this progressive atheist left, and these Islamic fundamentalists who seem to have nothing in common, but as you say, what they share is a burning hatred for biblically based Western civilization. Yeah. And I don't think anything scares them more than prophecies in the Bible coming true. And Christians and Jews really need to get on the same page and recognize that we have our differences, we have our points of departure, but the way I see it, those are internal disagreements. Yeah. We're on the same team, we're in the same family, and we have our internal disagreements within our own shared biblical narrative, that those two forces, the secular left and the Islamists, both reject that and both come against it. So they actually have a lot in common.
Yeah. Rabbi Pesach Wolicky, well said as always, my friend. Israel 365 Action, doing great work there. Keep it up, Pesach. We appreciate it. God bless.
Thanks, Eric.
See you soon.